Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm Mush back at it with another video, and I am here to talk about some tweets that one Tim Sweeney has sent out regarding some talk around the Epic Game Store, the free game offers, and he did take a little bit of a shot at Steam at the end of his chain of tweets, which I just think whenever you are the alternative company, taking shots at the leader, sometimes that works, especially if the market leader has a bad reception from the general audience, but in this case, Steam is generally beloved by the PC gaming audience, so I just don't think taking shots is the best route to go. I think GOG has been doing a great job for the most part as far as establishing their own identity, but the one thing I think they misfired on recently is where one of their statements could be perceived as them taking a shot. I don't even think they really took a shot at Steam. With Tim Sweeney's chain of tweets, it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, it's a little bit of a joke, but a shot is a shot, and I just think, taking a shot at Steam while Epic Games Store clearly has the more mixed reception, let's say, in terms of the PC gaming community, and I give Epic Games Store credit. The free game offerings are great, and it's great to have an alternative, but EGS also has their issues. So, the initial tweet that was put out, according to New Blood CEO, Epic Games Store's free giveaway caused a huge spike in Steam sales. The game sold 200% more copies on Steam that day than usual. Now, what is the usual sales numbers? And that is an effective element. Epic Games Store gives a game away for free. Well, suddenly people check it out, people talk about it on social media, and then other people are like, hey, people are talking about this game on social media. I don't really want to use the Epic Games Store, but it's on sale on Steam, I'll buy it. I totally believe that does happen. Tim Sweeney responded to that with a chain of tweets. Epic and Steam compete for each customer and each sale. On some transactions, Epic wins. On more, Steam wins, but one thing is constant on every transaction: gamers and developers win by having more options and better deals. Though Epic processes only around 7% as many third-party payments as Steam, that vastly underreports economic activity, as devs on Epic Games Store are free to process their own payments and keep 100%, and many major games like GTA do so. That is games that are heavy in microtransactions. They can process their own payments and keep all the money. That is why I believe a lot of the gacha titles are available on Epic Games Store and they are not available on Steam right away, because they do not want to give Valve the 30% on microtransactions. Ultimately, after a while, a lot of them will end up on Steam, such as Wuthering Waves is now available on Steam, but initially speaking, those games are either available on the Epic Games Store or they're just exclusive to their own platform. And it's never they're exclusive to Epic Games Store. They're always available on their own platform, but you can use the Epic Games Store as an avenue to get them. And again, I imagine that's because they can get 100% of the revenue. Sweeney also said the more telling number is monthly active users, where Epic Games Store is 55% to 60% the size of Steam. Listen, I'll continue this tweet in a second. The MAU stat when it comes to Epic Games Store can be an incredibly misleading stat, because Epic Games Store, its whole shtick is that it offers free games. So of that 60%, 55% monthly active users, or of the monthly active users, how many people are investing into the platform? That is ultimately what you need for a platform to be viable. You need user investment, monetary investment from the users. That is ultimately how you're going to make money. And there are a lot of people, we know this, that have Epic Games Store, they add the free game to their library, and then they get off of it for the next week, and then when another free game pops up, they'll add it to their library, and they don't spend any money, or they don't spend a lot of money. Ultimately, I question how this can be viable for the long term. Look, everybody loves free games. I get that. People like adding their free games to their library, and whether or not they play it, it's free games. That's great. What does this mean for the long-term viability of the storefront? And I kept saying this over and over again. Offering free games, you guys, I don't feel like is a viable identity for the long-term success of a storefront. Because ultimately, what is that going to offer? Is it going to convert those people that add free games to their library into paying customers of other games? In a lot of instances, I don't believe it does, and we don't have exact numbers and data, but I do believe that is one of those issues, because Epic Games Store doesn't have an identity of its own. And I'll get to that a little bit more after this tweet. He continued, "We heavily reinvest back into engaging users through the free games program, putting our revenue back to work for developers in a way that those those yachts and diamond teeth don't. So yes, that was the little shot taken at Steam. What essentially I feel like that says is that Steam doesn't put their revenue back into supporting developers, at least in a way that Epic Games Store does. And yes, I believe Epic Games Store does, you know, write a blank check, give it to the developers, and that does offer the developers quite a lot. And Epic Games Store, if you want to say they have an identity, because I don't feel like their offering of free games is a identity for the platform, and even if it is, it's not a viable identity to create a compelling storefront that will generate a lot of revenue. At least I don't believe it is. Epic Games Store, you could argue, has an identity in putting the developers first, thinking about the developers first, and putting the emphasis on the developers and making sure the developers, for the sales that happen on the Epic Games Store and them being on the Epic Games Store, they are rewarded for that. Ultimately, the reality is the customer doesn't care that much about that. I hate to break it to you. Yes, there are a lot of customers that want the developers to do well. They want developers to be rewarded, etc., etc. But first and foremost, and every customer is entitled to this, they are going to be selfish. They want what's best for them. They want the storefront that they feel like is best in terms of how many people are on it, how many of their friends are on it, what they're used to, and the actual content of said storefront and using said storefront. That is just the end of it. And I don't think establishing an identity around developers first, oh, developers can keep 100% of their what relevance does that have to a customer? Maybe it has relevance in the sense that, oh, Epic Games Store will have these gacha titles, but guess what? Those gacha titles are available on their own client. Like, the fact that you're giving developers 100% of the revenue and they can process their own payments, what customer is going to be drawn into the Epic Games Store because of that? Like, sure, that's great for the developers and the creators of the game that they get to keep more of the revenue, happy for them. However, if that is your identity, that you are putting developers first, ultimately, that is not going to draw in the customer. I don't feel like the customer is going to be like, well, if I spend microtransactions on the Epic Games Store, this game will get all of the content, so I'm going to play GTA on the Epic Games Store so they get all the revenue. So Rockstar, they need more of my money, so I'm going to play GTA on the Epic Games Store. Maybe there's a few people that are doing that, but we're kidding ourselves if we're talking about, like, it's an overwhelming amount of people. And it is what it is. It seems like Sweeney's just against that idea of the 70-30% split. And he also said, in response to a tweet, nothing against the Epic Games Store, but I genuinely would kill to have Fortnite on Steam any chance if this is in the future. Tim Sweeney said, we've said all along we'll come to any store that gives all developers a good deal. But wait a second. Fortnite is available on pretty much every console. Don't console storefronts have the same developer percentage split that Steam does? I feel like framing this as a Steam's giving the storefront a bad deal, that's not fair because you're on consoles. Does PlayStation give a better deal to the developers than Steam? Does Xbox? Does Nintendo? Let me know. Am I missing something as far as that's concerned? I'm sure if Fortnite was available, a lot of people would be playing Fortnite on Steam. Ultimately, it would definitely cut into your microtransaction revenue, and I don't think it's going to happen. But I feel like framing it that way, you'll come to any store that gives all developers a good deal. I don't feel like that's fair. And guess what? You want to give developers a good deal? You want to know a game that would do really well on Steam and would sell orders of magnitude more than it currently has? That's Alan Wake 2. But guess what? Alan Wake 2 is available only on the Epic Games Store. And guess what as well? I don't have a problem with that because Epic Games Store funded that game and it's their prerogative to do what they want with the game. If they want to keep it an Epic Games Store exclusive, fine. However, to frame it in a way that you'll come to any store that gives developers a good deal, I don't feel like that's fair in the sense that Alan Wake 2, again, that's a game that's available on the PlayStation Store, that's a game that's available on Xbox, and again, Fortnite available on all of those platforms. Are those storefronts doing developers a bigger solid than Steam's doing? I don't know. Am I missing something there? I would love to hear an explanation on that. And, I went on over to Tim Sweeney's Twitter page. He is retweeting various stuff, a tweet about over 5,000 games released on Steam this year didn't make enough money to recover the $100 fee to put a game on Valve Store, research estimates. That doesn't surprise me. There's a lot of thrown together titles that come out on Steam, and guess what? Like, I'm not saying that Steam needs to put the ban hammer down on a lot of games coming out, because I feel like Steam does a fairly good job of promoting the relevant games to the relevant people. Although, I've been critical of Steam. I think, them having games with malware on it and updates that have malware on it, even though it only happened a very, very few amount of times, that's absolutely egregious. And hey, some people would like some of the slop to be eliminated, and at the end of the day, I don't really care. Like, the relevant games, ultimately, I feel like get to the relevant people, so it is what it is. And then he retweeted another post about Apple, Google, and Steam's 70-30 split and how it doesn't make sense today, but devs are used to it. I'm fairly certain, by the way, the PlayStation Store and Xbox is also a 70-30 split, so, are they offering developers a good deal? You have your games available on those platforms, probably because you kind of have to with Fortnite, but you're also at the same time framing it in a way to take a low-key shot at Steam. Like, let's be real, he's not saying it outright, but the user asked, nothing against the Epic Game Store, but I would genuinely kill to have Fortnite on Steam. Any chance if this is in the future? Well, it's not available on Steam right now, and Tim Sweeney's saying you'll come to any store that gives all developers a good deal. So Steam doesn't give developers a good deal. That's essentially what you're implying there, but let me know what you guys think. Again, I think Epic Game Store, it's good to have it in the market. Like, you always want competition. But I just think some of this stuff we do have to think about in terms of what is the viability of Epic Game Store as the platform that it is right now. What is its identity in terms of getting people to invest in the platform? Are there people that are regularly buying their games on the Epic Game Store? I'm not even saying that it has to be anywhere near the amount of Steam, but in terms of creating a compelling storefront, that's ultimately the goal of Epic Game Store and in the model that it's designed. Yes, that's great that they're putting developers first and that developers can make more money, they can process their own payments, they can make a lot more money on those microtransactions, you know what I'm saying? But ultimately, what relevance does that have to the consumer? Maybe you can make the argument, hey, if the consumer supports the developer first platform, you're giving the developer more money, the developer will reinvest into their game, and then ultimately the game will be better. But that's like so many steps of things to happen that the average customer isn't gonna think about that. Be like, oh, if I play GTA Online on the Epic Game Store over Steam, Rockstar will get all my money, and that means Rockstar's gonna make GTA Online a better game. Like, nobody thinks like that. At least most people don't think like that. Nobody's, that's a blanket statement and speaking for a lot of people, but most people don't think like that. But that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Hey, what's going on, guys? Mush here again. Hope you enjoyed the video. As you guys might know, YouTube's notification system is sometimes a little bit wonky, even if you're subscribed to the channel. Maybe you're not abundantly aware that I uploaded a video. To remedy that situation, make sure you hit the bell notification button. This way, whenever I upload a new video, and I try to upload as consistently as possible, you will be notified directly of the upload, and you can watch it as soon as it goes live. I would really appreciate if you guys hit that button so you can stay up to date with all of the content I'm posting. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.